welcome Pastor as he comes to bring the word today.
I'm sure glad you chose to be here today because you need it. The sermon is the rib, the beam, the plank, and the chamber are the sanctuary. We have some situations in our country right now. I'm going to set the stage for the sermon. The sermon will be short. It's amazing what society is doing today. If you're going to have a revolution, you have to have an enemy. Hitler's enemy was the Jews. Today, the enemy are the conservatives who believe in God and country. And if you're a conservative, they're going to be after you. Prom dates have been replaced with group prom. Weddings have been replaced with single moms and couples living together. Let me tell you something about the human brain. The human brain does not mature in girls until they're about 24, 25 years old. Now, and in boys, it's 29 and 30 years old. We're just behind, guys. We run a little slow. Traditionally, couples married in their late teens or early 20s. And couples grew up and matured mentally, their brains joined together, while they were having babies. So they grew up maturing at the same time. Today, girls in their mid-teens are given chemical contraceptives. And recent studies have shown that it causes serious depression. For the rest of their lives, they will have bouts of serious depression. Now, the sermon today is the rib, the beam, the plank, and the chamber, our sanctuary. Let me read you a text from Genesis 2, I'm going to read verse 18 and then we'll skip down to verse 21. God said, "It's not good that man should be alone. I will make a helpmate for him." Verse 21. He caused Adam to go into a deep sleep and took one of his ribs, and from the rib he made the woman and brought her to the man. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man." Now I'm going to mess your brain up a little bit. And I'm going to tell you lighten your load a little bit before I mess you up. God came to Adam and said, "Adam, I'm going to make you a helpmate. And what do you want?" He said, "Well, would you make her beautiful to look at? Would you make her kind, loyal, and obedient to everything I say?" And God said, "Adam, I can do that, but it'll cost you an arm and a leg." Adam said, "What can I get for a rib?" So you see which one he took. Now, tradition says that God created man, and then sometime later he created a woman. And he called their name Adam. Now listen, I want you to look at something in Genesis 5, verses 1 and 2. It says, now tradition says, and this comes mostly from the Catholic Church early in the 4th and 5th century. They wanted to try to do away with women leadership, and they said that man was created, and then later, sometime later, woman was created. Now that's what they want the world to believe. But Genesis 5, 1 and 2 says, in the day that God created man in the likeness of God, he made him, male and female. Wait a minute. In the day he created male and female, he created them, and he blessed them and called their name Adam. Wait. Was Eve created the same time that Adam was created? Genesis 1:26 says, let us make man in our image. And he took a rib from Adam, he made a woman. Now, he made them in his own likeness. Let me ask you a question. You see, I ask you questions that I ask myself when I'm reading this. So the question that came to my mind is, God male or female? I ask myself that question. He must be both, because he made them the same day, and they were both male and female. They were together. They were one person. Now, they were created one person, and he called their name Adam. John 4 says God is a spirit. Now let me ask you another question. Is God a person, body, or is he a spirit? If God is a spirit, he created man in his own image. He created them male and female. So did God create a body, or did he create a spirit? I'll just tell you the answer. God created a spirit being with no body. They were a spirit being just like God. It was both male and female. In Genesis 2:5, it says, there was no man, he created them, but there was no man to till the garden. Now, wait a minute. He had already created Adam. But there was no man to till the garden. Why? Because a spirit cannot till the ground. Verse 7 says, the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So man, when he was created a spirit being, just like God. He had no body. Have I messed you up yet? Hang on, hang on. It's going to get better or worse one. Man is a spirit. He has a soul, and he lives in a body. God created a spirit man first with no body. Then he made a body for the man to live in. Then he breathed into them the breath of life, and he became a living soul. Do you realize that God had no body? until Jesus showed up. He was spirit. When Jesus showed up, he now had a body. Take a breath. Mack, much learning hath made thee mad. I know that's what some of you are thinking. Are you telling us, Mack, that God created two separate beings living in one body? Verse 3, still in chapter 2. God rested on the seventh day from all of his work, all of the work which he had created and made. God rested from all of the work that he had created and made. Made and created is not the same word. Created means that God made something from nothing. He spoke it into existence. But when he made something, he took something that he had already created and made something out of that. Now look at verse 27. Genesis 1:27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. Are you okay so far? We're about through with this part. We'll get to the sermon in just a minute. Now we know he made man from the dust of the earth. Where did he get the material to make Eve? He took one of Adam's ribs, and from the rib he made Eve. Eve was already present in Adam. She was part of Adam. Verse 21 again. God caused a deep sleep to come on Adam, took one of his ribs, and from the rib he made a woman, brought her to the man, and he said, now, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Now you've got to get this. Then this next statement just blew me away. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall be one flesh. God put Adam to sleep, and he took a rib and he jerked Eve out of Adam. That must have been a violent thing. Now, I've never been divorced, but I've talked to a lot of people who've been through it. And divorce is a violent thing. It's almost as violent, it's second rated in violence, in the effect of the mind as death. Divorce comes second to death. It's hard. It's a hard thing. He took her out, and Adam said she was bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. So let me give you a quick review of what we've covered, and then we'll get to the sermon. Genesis 1, God created them, male and female. Genesis 2:17, God made them a body from the dust of the earth. And then in chapter 2 verse 21, God jerked the female out of the body of Adam, and from a rib he formed a body for the female. Now listen, you've got to get this. Now you have two incomplete beings. Woman is incomplete without a man. Man is incomplete without woman. A lot of people marry, go through life, and never understand that God gave you each other so you could be one complete person.
Amen.
Wow. All we do is just, we marry and then drive each other crazy. People marry, go through life, never understand God gave you to each other so you could be one complete person.
Right.
Men and women are different, not just of makeup and physical differences, but they're different from men. The key word is in rib, because the same identical word for rib can also be translated beam, chamber, or plank. A beam, we all know, is something, a support that holds up, boy, you are quiet, that holds up a structure. Mothers, this is Mother's Day, and I'm going to get to a Mother's Day sermon. Won't be a traditional. That's why you come here. I don't give you what everybody else is preaching, and I don't get my sermons out of a book.
Amen.
Now, it's all right. I'll take an idea. I don't care where it comes from. I'll take an idea for a sermon off a drunk on the street. I don't care. But I try to make it my own, not something I took from somebody else. These preachers try to preach my sermons like I do, and they get in trouble. Because you can't preach to most. They're not pastoring the sheep shed. Can't preach in most churches what I preach here. Yeah. How low can a man go to get an appreciation applause? The same word for rib is beam, plank, or chamber. Beam is something that holds up and supports a structure. Mothers, you are the beam that supports and holds up the family. Now, men want everybody to think how strong and macho they are, but you can't fool Mother. She knows how weak you really are. Everybody knows anything that mothers are the real strength and support of the family. Yes, they are. Give mothers a hand. I chuckle when they flash. One of these big football players, 6'6", 6'8", weighs about 400 pounds, and he's mean. And I thought, his dad worked with him, taught him how to catch the ball, how to block. Block that tree. Chew the bark off of that tree. He taught him how to be mean, to block and tackle. And here he is playing professional football, and the camera flashes on him. What does he say? Hi, Mom. Mom didn't do anything to get him where he is. That's when dads are down and discouraged, the wife, the mother of his kids, can hold him up like no one else. Now, she also has the ability to destroy him like no one else. Husbands, listen. Ladies, your husband needs you to build him up, not tear him down. And mothers, kids need your support. I don't care how old they are. They still need mama. Number 2, that's the beam. Number 2 is the plank. Now listen, men and young people, a plank is not something for you to walk on. In a political party, a plank gives definition and purpose. It's what they stand on and what they stand for. Men, now listen. Not one of us, men, has the spiritual authority that our wives have. The sensitivity that our wives have. How many times were you planning to do something, guys, and your wife said, I just don't feel right about that? What do? We do the same thing Adam did. God, this woman you gave me is driving me insane. Couple driving down the road, I need to lighten you up a little bit. Couple driving down the road, they're fussing. I mean, it's serious. They're really getting after each other. He looks over and sees a mule standing in the pasture. He said, oh, there's one of your relatives. She said, yes, by marriage. You can't win. There's no need in arguing with them. You cannot win. It's over. When a husband and a wife will not allow their mate to be what God intended them to be, they go through life incomplete and unfulfilled. And they never know what it means to be one flesh in total harmony and agreement spiritually. That's why adultery and sexual perversion is such a problem today. Yeah. Men and women who are incomplete and unfulfilled, you will never find fulfillment and completeness in sexual union alone. Fulfillment